You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're tuned in to NightVision Radio, exposing the truth one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Well, that's Steely Dan for you from the Royal Scam album. This is taking me back to my rock and roll radio days. I tell you, it's a tie-in, actually. The name of that song is The Caves of Altamira, where they're talking about, some prehistoric caves in Spain where they found writing that was about 20,000 years old on the wall. And it was the first time that there was a lot of controversy because a lot of the academics argued that man was not advanced at that time to be able to express themselves artistically like that. But of course, now we know different. And since that time, I know there are 35,000-year-old and even 30,000-year-old caves found in France that have similar writings and drawings, amazing things. And it's all about, people from the past leaving us signs and messages. And just a real quick, before we get into the subject tonight, just a little secret that I'll share with you. It's just a little tidbit, it's nothing big. But you may remember a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Haywood, who purports to be a member of the Priory of Zion. And we introduced him to the world in a film that I produced a few years ago called Bloodline. And he caused quite a stir. He, got a lot of attention following his coming out publicly. And then later, Robert Howells wrote a book based on information that he had received from Nicholas Haywood called Inside the Priory of Zion. But an interesting note, the last time I talked to Nicholas, which was a few months ago, he told me to look at the cover of the Steely Dan album, The Royal Scam. And now this is what he claims. I'm not saying this, but he says that is him lying on that bench. I don't know if you've seen that picture, but you could look it up easily enough, and I'll post it in the chat room in a few minutes. But I tell you what, I looked at it. It actually does look like him. But as I said, I'm not claiming anything, but that's what he told me. He told me that he posed for that picture back in the 70s or whenever. I guess it was the 70s when that album came out. Anyway, just a little tidbit for you. It's kind of silly. But anyhow, our guest tonight is not silly, nor is his evidence on the fantastic Beale treasure. Now, I've heard a lot about the Beale treasure for many years. I worked on a show on the Fox network, 10, 15 years ago called $1 Million Mysteries, where we did a story on the Beale treasure. But I have to say, it didn't really click in with me then. And not until I came across Kenneth Bauman's material, and that's our guest tonight. And before I go any further, I want to say hi, Kenneth Bauman.
Well, hello, René. How are you doing?
I'm really good. Thanks for joining us. But I had to say, thank you so much for reaching out to me with your material. And I also have to thank our mutual friend, Court Lindell, for sort of facilitating our connection and grabbing my attention with his video that he did for you that's on YouTube. Because it was that video that made me think, well, wait a minute. Maybe this Beale treasure is more interesting than I thought. Because I'm not really just into treasure hunts, but I am into history and I'm into hidden knowledge. And and messages and all that. And so when I saw that there was a Templar connection, and this is the possible Templar treasure that you're talking about, I said, oh my gosh, we got to have Kenneth on to explain himself.
Yes, Cord is a good friend of mine, and our research parallels with each other, and we become aware fairly recently of each other's presence and of the research. And Cord has been very kind in helping me get my second book republished for a lot less cost, which is a good thing, and help me with that video, which is explanatory to the research that I do in Project René.
Well, it is amazing. And we're talking about an area of the United States, in Virginia, as a matter of fact, where you're talking about this possible location is, or where you figure that you have enough evidence and you've been able to pinpoint this location. And I know that it has been sort of rumored to be there for quite some time. But what I was really caught by was when you were talking about your research and how you realized that intuition comes into play so heavily. And that really caught my attention. And I think you mentioned Ralph Waldo Emerson as being the father of intuition. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Intuition's been around with women forever. You know, why is Ralph Waldo Emerson? But then I did look him up, and I found so many quotes, not only from him, but from people like Albert Einstein. Whereas, you know, not only is intuition important in research, but it's paramount. And so please tell me how you came to your ideas about intuition, and what are they?
Well, first off, concerning intuition, from what I've learned from my research in 22 years now of studying on this project, there are hits of intuition. How many times have you walked up to a corner of a building or something of that nature, and you just had a sense that somebody was there or something was going to happen, and it did happen? And intuition was important, and like you say, Emerson was the father of intuition in his studies, and how Emerson became involved here was, I guess I should start from the beginning. Back in 1976, as about a 16-year-old boy, I was in my attic in my boyhood home, and to my surprise, in looking through some of the old stuff up there, in an old steamer trunk with a great deal of linens that came in it originally, at the bottom of this steamer trunk was an old sword within its scabbard. And I grasped it and I pulled it out and looked at it, and I was mesmerized by this sword. It was really neat. It was all black. The metal was black. The scabbard leather was black, and it was just an unusual item, and it really caught my attention. Well, my parents said that I could have it, and they didn't really know anything about it. It just came in the trunk. It came from my grandfather, who sent it from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, in the late 1940s to my boyhood home in Auburn, Indiana. It came to my mother. Her father was my grandfather. And I knew nothing about this sword, and I kept it for many years not knowing anything about it. And 1 year later, after I came into possession of the sword, from the same household as my grandfather in New York City, Long Island, came an unusual Spanish coin that was sliced in half and had a clipper, a little pocket knife, and a file pinned in between the halves of this coin, about the size of a silver dollar. And it was old. It was dated 1871. And it, too, I put with the sword in a desk drawer, and I did not touch these items really until, again, in 1994, I pulled them out and I started to study the sword and the coin. And I looked at them objectively. I tried to identify the sword and what army possessed it, what person may have possessed it, and learned a little bit about the coin, the numismatics of the particular Spanish coin. Well, as an objective view, I just learned facts about these items. Well, as I studied more and more about them and became a little bit more obsessed, if you will, concerning the study of these items, a strange thing began to happen with the study of these items. I began to study the coin, and I looked to try to understand the markings on the coin itself. And the sword also had some markings on it. And a long story short, and in my book, it details a great deal of information concerning the path that I took in the objective study of these items, which will help me now in not relaying every bit of information about it. But long story short, I learned what I have coined the phrase literary steganography. Literary being obviously text, and steganography being a form of cryptography. Real quick, a definition of steganography is a cryptogram is something that we see on its face. It's there before us. We know there's a secret hidden behind the numbers or the other items that are the pictographs or whatever. And we know there's a message hidden. Well, in steganography, for instance, we don't even know that there is a puzzle. If you can identify that there is a puzzle, then you can begin to learn what is behind that puzzle, the secret message hidden. So there's the definition of steganography and the difference between cryptography. Well, and the...
So the difference is that cryptography, you're dealing with a code, and if in steganography, you have to first identify that there is a code.
That there is a secret puzzle hidden. Yes, that's correct.
I see.
So,
and that's in any writings or carvings or anything that you might come across where there is lettering or markings, or would that include like, is that in manuscripts, or is it on, carved in stones, or is it just does that apply to anything that you would find? And what were you applying it to? The Beale ciphers?
No, not at that time. The Beale papers came a little bit later. And the term hidden in plain sight is good for steganography, because something is hidden. And it's not really viewed, but it's hidden right before you, and one does not even know that it exists until something triggers the mind to see it.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I see that happening a lot. And, and even talked about in ancient texts and things about, for those who have eyes to see, there it is. It's basically, it's laid out, for you to see, but either you see it or you don't see it. But,
yes.
So you developed a way to start recognizing that there were hidden messages?
Yes. In studying the sword and the coin, as I started to learn that there seemed to be patterns here that were teaching me with these two items as I studied them objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Soon in getting an intuitive feeling, I linked to the connection to Ralph Waldo Emerson, and that seems like quite a jump at this point, but it is spelled out plainly in my book. Once I learned about Ralph Waldo Emerson, I learned that he was the father of intuition, and this was very curious to me. And later, as I studied the sword and the coin, it appeared to me that hidden wealth was a common theme in the breakdown, or the hidden message within what could be seen from the coin itself, almost like a holy grail. almost like something special hidden within this, something alchemized, something different, something common made special here in this coin.
Now, is that coin, is that available to see in your book? Are there photographs of it?
Yes, there are photographs in the book. Unfortunately, the new book is black and white, but I do have the e-book yet that it's available that can be seen online. If I'm contacted, I can pass on the e-book of the color photographs.
Now,
Yes.
where can we find your book online if if people want to be scrolling and looking at it now while we're talking? If you could just give the website out where we can actually find it, they can order it. I know I looked up your book today or a couple of days ago on Amazon, and you're able to actually look inside the book and see some of the contents. And now I didn't know if I didn't see the picture of the coin, but that would be really good. I do think I saw a picture of the sword, though. Maybe that was on your Facebook page, possibly.
No, you probably saw it in the book, Renee.
Oh, okay.
Just past the sword picture is the coin. And you were probably looking at the colored book, which is quite expensive before it went out of print.
Oh.
And Court Lindahl was responsible for helping me republish this book with a different cover. And to order this book is www.createspace.com/5541639. That's the website that will get you to the page that you can order the book.
Also, if anybody has a problem, finding that, if you're trying to order that book later on, just shoot me an email or a Facebook message or email the station, and they'll get the email to me, and we'll make sure that you find the location. Now, just to backtrack a little bit, in case people may not know what the Beale treasure is or what it may purport to be, we're looking at what could possibly be, the so-called treasure of the Knights Templar, which I'm assuming includes, treasures from the Temple of Solomon, possibly.
Yes, the Knights Templar treasure. We have Oak Island, and Oak Island purports to have the Knights Templar treasure hidden, and treasures of antiquity, documents, objects, and so on and so forth. I am suggesting my research points to another small island in the Bay of Fundy, which is not too far away from Oak Island, that we're led to by the first code in the Beale cipher, in the Beale Papers story. And I have two bits of research that lead to this particular small island, with some support that something is there from an interview with two Freemasons about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Let's take a quick break, Ken, if you don't mind. And when we come back, you can go ahead and give us some more information on that, because that sounds like a really interesting bit right there. We'll be right back. We're talking with Kenneth Bauman. We're talking about the Beale treasure and his book that's out right now that you can actually buy and read. So hang in there with us, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Night Vision Radio. If you're just tuning in, we are talking with Kenneth Bauman about the Beale treasure and his book that he has written about that. Also, a project that he has that's coming up. We're going to talk about that because I know that's really heavy on his mind, and he's looking for some assistance in this project. There might be some interested parties out there listening. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But back to the Beale treasure and the Beale papers. For those who may not know, what were the Beale papers?
The Beale papers is a story written by an author that is unidentified. But we suspect, I suspect, and my Project Red Niece suspects that Edgar Allan Poe inspired and or possibly even assisted in some way in preparing the Beale Papers story. The story was copyrighted in 1885, but I can all but prove that Edgar Allan Poe's tale, The Gold Bug, intimates or hints at the upcoming Beale paper story by certain phrases and comments in one paragraph of the tale, The Gold Bug, which was written in 1841 by Edgar Allan Poe. Some of this research I've heard on the internet, and then one piece of this paragraph I decoded myself, and further helped to support with evidentiary value that Edgar Allan Poe either knew of the Beale papers to be inspired or helped write them himself. I would like to mention real quick here that the BealeKey.com, spearheaded by Roy Dallas, is another major work by Roy Dallas himself. And although the majority of information that Roy Dallas and I have talked about, which is confidential, and I would like to turn the listeners onto his website, which is www.thebealekey.com, and that information is self-explanatory. So back to Poe real quick. He suggested, possibly historically, that the Beale papers would come along at some time during his lifetime, and in 1849, supposedly he died. Well, there's question about whether he actually died or not, or whether his murder was faked by himself, and possibly he went to France. There's a good bit of it in this project that suggests this to be the case, which means he was alive to see the Beale papers come to fruition.
And that's why, I felt that there was an RLC, a Rennes-le-Chateau connection to, or could be, because of some emerging information, that court obviously knows about Edgar Allan Poe's possible connection in France and to the Rennes-le-Chateau area. It's really wild. And I told court that, when I was a little girl, my mother used to read to us all the time. And what did she read? She read Edgar Allan Poe to us. I could quote The Raven, when I was a little bitty girl, and it was the poetry, though, not really the story. So I wasn't familiar with the story, The Gold Bug, until court actually sent it to me recently. And just FYI, I sent that story over to Henry Lincoln, who lives over, of course, near Rennes-le-Chateau in Rennes-le-Ban, France. He's the author of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and many subsequent books since. And he got a real kick out of that story. He really liked it. And I just feel like there's something going on with Edgar Allan Poe. And I wanted to ask you about the cover of your book with the spider on it. Now, did you take the spider because of the gold bug story, because the bug was a tarantula in the story?
Almost correct. The cover you're speaking of is on the original publication. The cover changed when the new publication came out. The website that I gave for ordering the $10 book is the cover now. But to answer your question about the spider, real quick, there are, in my estimation, there are 3 methodologies in the Beale papers of hiding secret information. 2 of them I discovered, and the other one was discovered by Roy Dallas and his website. And that's all I can really say right now under confidentiality concerning that. But the one methodology was the Beale code number 1 in the first 16 numbers, which is a cryptogram, and hidden in reverse, I deciphered the first 16 numbers to read air fen, do, red, knee. And air means to...
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Air means to dig or plow or uncover. In the fen, an unusual marshy spot. Do, right at a location, red knee. Well, I understood the first three words, but red knee stymied me. What was that? Well, a little bit of research, I realized that the Mexican red knee tarantula was a spider. And how could that come into play? Well, through the research, and this is well spelled out in my book to take you through all the multiple paths that I went through, if you look at Edgar Allan Poe's tale, The Gold Bug, in the very first sentence, you have, what ho, this man is dancing mad. He hath been bitten by the tarantula. It hit me all of a sudden. We're to dig or plow directly in this tale. There's something hidden in the gold bug. And if you want to know what the answer is, grab my book and understand that what is hidden in the gold bug has been deciphered, and that's what led me to a particular beautiful mansion in the city of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And in that mansion is hidden, it is suspected, a great deal of gold, some of which were coins brought to America from Scotland by one Captain John McPherson, who worked to build that mansion. Now, that was methodology number one in the Beale papers. Methodology number two we led to before the break. In Beale Code number one, the entirety of all the numbers, with some help by an individual in California who is a former employee of the NSA, used letter frequency to break down into a meaning a message out of Beale Code number one. With another gentleman from Canada, and I used that breakdown and tweaked it and made it into an understandable reading from the jargon that came out of the cryptogram. From that jargon, I was led to a small island in the Bay of Fundy. I can get into more detail about this island if we make further contact, and I can get more in depth through lecture to interested parties. This small island is today a bird sanctuary, but it has been manned by someone since the early 1800s.
It's probably government property, isn't it?
Well, it is really owned by neither the United States nor Canada, but Canada claims it. And I sort of jokingly say that the only thing not there are the warships. But there's something hidden there, and I mentioned that there was an interview between two Freemasons, and I will not identify them in this broadcast.
How about in the book?
Not in the book, but in lecture, I can talk more about this. But it has been confirmed that there is something hidden there, and there's evidence to understand from these two men why.
Wow. One of the reasons, another reason that I saw or thought that there might be a Rennes-le-Chateau connection is because of the spider and the tarantula, because there is a spider symbolism found there, particularly on the tombstone of Marie de Neg-Dobles, who was the Dame d'Hautpoul, or the Dame of Hautpoul and of Blanchefort. And her tombstone was defaced early in the 20th century by the priest Saunier, who came to the village and then suddenly became fabulously wealthy. No one could figure out why, but it was said that he had a great secret. that he had discovered either a great secret or a great treasure or both. And it's funny that he, took a pickaxe to the tombstone and defaced it, but of course there were already pictures of it. And there is a spider at the bottom, a spider symbol that looks like a tarantula.
That's very interesting, Renee. That is the first.
I'll send you that. I'll send you that picture. I'll post it in the chat room now, but I will also send it to you as well by email.
You have to understand that the spider is a symbol of wisdom, and this could be the reason why that if there's a connection with the spider on that tombstone, and the spider alluded to by, we think now, Edgar Allan Poe perhaps had a hand in creating the red knee, alluding to the tarantula, alluding to the gold bug, alluding to a secret spot in the gold bug, and this secret spot is plainly deciphered in my book.
Wow.
And that leads to the mansion. So there's methodology number 2 in the Beale papers and whatnot. And methodology number 3, I sort of cut that off because I want to introduce Roy Dallas and his work through his webpage, but we are very good friends, and I cannot mistrust the confidentiality.
Sure. Understood.
I think his work is very promising, and we'll leave it at that. So, now, do you have any other questions about the small island in the Bay of Fundy? Because that island is up there very near, perhaps even 366 kilometers from Oak Island. And if you might recall...
Well, that was going to be what I was going to ask was, if Canada's claiming it, how close is it to Oak Island?
It's in my estimation, through my research, I am reporting 366 kilometers around the Cape of Nova Scotia. Southwest. And if you'll note, 366 was the same number that was brought into the Oak Island, Curse of Oak Island, by Alan Butler from Scotland, who about 366 megalithic yards from 10X, the money pit, to a particular location on the island. Well, I've been in communication with Alan Butler.
We've had Alan on. I got to meet Alan in Glastonbury a couple of years ago, and he's been on the show now. He hasn't been on since we've been here at Inception Radio. I'm going to have to get hold of him and have him back on again. But now, is he considering what you're saying?
What was that, Renee?
Is he now considering what you're saying with relationship to this island and Oak Island?
He did consider that, and in our email communication 6-8 months ago or whenever it was, he confirmed that there is something very interested in the claim that 366 kilometers may be actually what is to be identified movement to this small island, which is very curious, in the middle of the Bay of Fundy, up by Maine and just southwest, just a little southwest of Grand Manan Island. The research was mathematically constructed to arrive at 366 kilometers by sea around the Cape of Nova Scotia. And he found that to be quite interesting, my research. And I haven't talked to him recently, and I did attempt to talk to him again, and he did not return my email. So he may be under confidentiality through the Oak Island showings and whatnot, possibly.
Possibility. Now, I know that, you talked about, hidden meanings in writings, and you even mentioned earlier to me that there was something about some Shakespeare writings that you can apply this method to, and it's actually yielding some different messages.
Yes, the same form of steganography the same literary steganography. And basically what you have is, take the first sonnet, for instance, and you'll have to research and call up the sonnets on the internet, and look at sonnet number 1. Actually, the wording is quite strange, and it's hard to understand really what they're talking about. And when I see that kind of writing, I suspect right away that it's a pesher. It's a form of a story within words. It's like stuffing a bunch of words of secret in a shoe, so that when somebody comes into the room, they see the shoe, but they don't understand the secret words inside the shoe. So when you apply literary steganography, which is using a dictionary, you come up with a different writing altogether. And this is how they hid these messages with the Pesher code in literary steganography. Now, anybody can read the first sonnet. I won't read that here, but would you like me to read the breakdown of what the first sonnet says?
Yeah, can you give us an example of what you mean?
Yes.
With a specific Shakespeare work?
Okay, I'll read the first 2 sentences in the sonnet itself. Then I'll read the entire breakdown.
What's the sonnet? What's it from?
Sonnet number 1. Here we go. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. Those words mean something else. Using a common dictionary and placing the definitions of each word in line, you come up with a different meaning. Here's the breakdown of the first sonnet. By reason of most promising human beings, our wish to become greater those nearby qualities, rise power to dominate, not ever to cease to exist. Yet to the same degree, by that one who slashes shall, through the agency of a definite portion of duration, die. He of delicate quality, who takes or displays the qualities of some forerunner, may show visibly him, one who is remembered, that you cause to draw together near your belonging, quick-witted, attentive observations. Nourish your mental or spiritual insights, ardor, from an individual considered as the subject of his own consciousness and of real worth and importance. Whatever sustains or heightens emotions contributes to improvement any dearth to a situation to which a plentiful or overflowing supply exists. You, your enemy aiming at your gentle and winning qualities, any attribute, more than sufficiently causing mental or physical suffering. I'll end there, but that was half of it. These sonnets, 3 of them I have decoded, are in the book that I'm offering for sale.
And are they, it sounds like spiritual teachings. Or, and it also, is there something in it about immortality? Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yes.
Because it seems like at the heart of a lot of these mysteries, and I was talking with my friend author Gloria Amendola today. We talk constantly. We research a lot together. And we were talking about, it seems like at the heart of a lot of these secrets may lie this quest for immortality and secrets that, might, or at least purport to offer that.
Well, you're right, René. These people 200, 300, 400 years ago, this was the way their name could live forever. Their writings were alive with Pesher. In other words, they wrote something, but there was something of real meaning to them hidden behind the veil. And what I just read to you was a person who I believe is Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, actually wrote the sonnets as opposed to the common thought of Shakespeare. William Shakespeare did not write these sonnets.
Well, I have heard, of course, we've heard that it could have been Francis Bacon, but I have heard that it was de Vere. In fact, we had a woman on the show, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but she wrote a book about that very thing. And the De Vere's are still a pretty big name. And it's interesting. Why would he have disguised his identity?
Because it was very politically incorrect, probably, to say the things he wanted to say, either in the open or using the Pesher.
And would it be also true that a person from an aristocratic background like that, it would have been seen as sort of, below or beneath a person of that status to be writing sonnets and plays and getting involved in show business, basically? Is that a possibility?
Oh, sure. I think being a poet in those days was not highly appreciated.
Valued, yeah.
And there's one point I was going to say, and it slipped my mind here. These people were placing to posterity something hidden, something common made special. So these writings were alchemized. That is the definition of alchemy, something common made special. And it made them feel good in their lifetime as they lived to know that something was hidden for the future. And this is exactly what Ralph Waldo Emerson did with his treasure hunt for the future. He possessed the sword and the coin. There were 13 people that possessed this up until my time. I know who they were, and I possess them currently. And I can list the names.
And how did they come to be in the attic?
Okay. It came to be in my attic through my grandfather, my mother's father, who shipped them from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in that trunk. I possess the trunk, and it's marked Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. All the evidence is here.
Do you know how he came into possession of those items?
Today, yes, I do.
But you didn't initially.
During the initial objective research, I had no clue what this sword was, who they came from other than my grandfather, and all I had was my mother said my father sent these to Auburn from Pennsylvania, and she didn't know anything about them. Of course, my father, this wasn't his side of the family. He was of no help with this. So at that time, but today, let me just say this. The sword originally, and this is through a great deal of research, and I'm looking right now in Project Red Knee Den at about 60 3-inch binders of documents and material over a 22-year period.
Oh, goodness.
This sword originally belonged to one Maurice Benyovsky, the first Hungarian king of Madagascar.
Oh, my gosh.
He's 6. He was a very good friend and a very good colleague with Benjamin Franklin of Philadelphia.
Oh, my gosh. Another Rennes Chateau connection. Go ahead.
Franklin had a grandnephew, Jonathan Williams Jr., the first superintendent of West Point. Jonathan Williams' sister married a man by the name of Samuel Bradford. Samuel Bradford was a lifelong friend and mentor to, guess who? Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Oh, my gosh.
Ralph Waldo Emerson was very good friends with, I believe it was Samuel Bradford, who was the connect to Thomas Carlyle in England. Thomas Carlyle in England knew Richard Wagner, the operatic in Germany.
Oh, my gosh. And the Holy Grail guy.
Richard Wagner knew very well Friedrich Nietzsche.
Oh, my gosh.
Friedrich Nietzsche knew another man through another man, and that's where I must stop.
All right. Oh, that's amazing. Well, we're going to stop right here for just a moment and take a quick break. But we're going to be back with Kenneth Bauman and the Beale treasure. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Ken is up to now and what he's trying to do and how you might be able to help. We'll be right back. You're listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett. And tonight, our special guest is Kenneth Bauman. He's talking about the Beale treasure and his book about it called National Treasure at René. And it is available for you to purchase and buy, and that'll help Ken out with his research. Now, you've been on this now, did you say, for about 20 years?
About 22 years, Renee.
22 years.
And it started in 1994, in the spring, April of 1994.
Now, do you ever have a hope of being able to actually excavate or go to that location and see what's there? Do you think that'll ever happen?
I have gone there and requested twice. I've been to the location several times to view. It's a museum. You pay $5. You can go in the building at the mansion or walk around it or whatever. And the actual wealth that's suspected to be hidden in the building would be accessible from the outside. If one had a metal detector, which is not allowed in Fairmount Park. So don't even waste your time with that, because I've tried twice and I've been denied twice. And one of those denials was the man said that my proposal was inappropriate. And that stymied me. I said, how can an attempt to validate a national treasure within a building within the United States of America be an inappropriate proposal? Well, I never got an answer for that, and that's where it stands.
Now, the museum, what is in the museum?
There is some very old furniture from dating back to the 18th century, and it is a very beautiful building. And of course, we would never want to damage the building. That would be completely out of line. And there's only one way to do this, and that's through proper channels, if it's going to be done at all. But I've known the location exactly where treasure is suspected to be hidden in this mansion for a great deal of time. And I simply cannot search it. It's a National Historical Site or landmark, and basically there are 7 locations, one of which is worked by Roy Dallas, and the other 6 are locations that I have come to know that there could be something hidden. And that comes all from the Beale paper story and the sword and the coin research that I've done with Project René.
And what do you think is possibly in there? Lots of gold coins? Would there be, as we said, possibly the Ark of the Covenant, maybe the Great Menorah? I mean, that's a pretty big item. I guess
the Ark of the Covenant and the Great Menorah would be items that might be found in a subterranean cavity, perhaps at this small island near Nova Scotia. But in the coins, the coins, the Quoins, the exterior ornate corners of the building is where hidden, suspected, a great deal of coin. And some of this coin could be French Louis d'Or gold pieces that were a part of the Jacobite rebellion in Scotland in 1745. And what's interesting is the man who controlled these 17,800 coins that came up missing in Scotland happened to be a first cousin to the man who built this mansion in Philadelphia.
Oh, well, what a coincidence.
Gee, isn't that a connection?
That is crazy.
Research has indicated that this is so.
Well, it seems like they, I think they do a lot of these things in national parks or, BLM land or, somehow government controlled land. I think things are hidden because then they can always say, no one can ever dig here or no one can ever look here. But I would imagine, if you were able to get your information out there and people agreed that you've got some really solid directions there, really solid pointers there and solid evidence, that once there was sort of a critical mass reached at some point, maybe it might stir some action. So I guess what you're looking to do is really get the word out about this, get your book out there, and hope that people agree with your theories or your evidence. I don't know that it's really theory at all, but certainly evidence, and might find ways to come on board and help you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, Renee. And is just to expose this right now and to get a little help. And if we can do this thing properly and conveniently without disrupting the building, without damaging it, what's the hurt in validating the existence of perhaps, and this is an estimation of 0.348 billion with a B of gold that could be hidden within this mansion. And I have the nuts and bolts, the mathematics done on the possibility of $348 million worth of gold if all the coins possess hidden gold coin. And each coin unit that stack up the crisscross corners of the building can hold up to maybe 800 coins each within a 4x4-inch hollow within the brick construction of these corners. And if you've noticed, I haven't mentioned the name of this mansion yet.
I've noticed. And
there's a reason for that right now. One, I would like people to see the book and to read about it, but I specifically want to encourage no one to go to this location and damage this building. If they want to go view it, it's a very beautiful building. I've been there several times, as I've said, and it's an American treasure itself.
Now, you're talking about gold coins, and someone in the chat room, Apples, says, so what's the treasure, money? And, I would hope that, in addition to something like just gold coins that are worth a lot of money, that there might be some kind of documents, some kind of other evidence. Certainly the treasures of the Temple of Solomon would be amazing to find.
Like I said, the treasures of antiquity, documents, perhaps remains of bodies of who knows who.
Yes.
These would be more likely in a subterranean pit that is protected, like at the small island in the Bay of Fundy. The coins in the building that I'm talking about in Philadelphia can really hold this. The theory suggests gold only, but who knows what's in there? It could be jewelry. It could be things small enough to fit in a 4x4-inch hollow that's vertical, that goes from ground to the ceiling, to the top of the building, within the construction, hidden within, where you can't see it, within this brick construction. And
now, why do you think, or how did you come to the idea that that's where it would be? Was there something that directed you there, or just by looking at the building and the plan, or the floor plan, you figured that's where it would have to be?
Edgar Allan Poe sent me there through the building.
Oh.
Remember I said that the Airfen Do Red Knee?
Yes.
Sent me to the Gold Bug, which was written by Poe, and look for a spot in the Gold Bug that's unusual. And here's the unusual spot in the Gold Bug. Using literary steganography, this part of the Gold Bug, it says, a good glass in the Bishop's Hostel in the Devil's Seat, 41 degrees and 13 minutes, northeast by north, main branch 7th limb east side, shoot from the left eye of the death's head, a beeline from the tree through the shot 50 feet out. What does that mean?
Oh.
Well, here's what it means through literary steganography. And this is a map to treasure. And this is what led me to the mansion in Philadelphia. All genuine natural substance with the likeness of glass particle in that overseer's lodging place, within that wicked, cruel, or ill-tempered person's abode. That of prime importance, single-through union, staged in ascending process with prime importance individuals having definite position. Moreover, near to the point of prime importance, a principal part of a system of prime importance projecting toward the east position with reference to a central point. To dump, empty, or send down a chute, start by that thing turned to the west when facing north, something resembling an eye such as a metal ring or loop from in or by that symbol of mortality. One direct line starting point by that handle-forming part of the structure which indicates source between individual members of that woven so as to present a play of colors. That of prime importance pays forth from. And that is in my book.
Wow.
That is literary steganography, or Pesher code. That is how Poe hid a message within his tale, The Gold Bug. It sent me to the mansion in Philadelphia.
I mean,
Now,
I can see how you could figure that out from, what you said using that method. But to write in that way would be so difficult, it seems like, doesn't it? I mean, he would have had to have been super brilliant, to be able to write in a way that makes sense just to the, just taking it on its face, but also spells it out so clearly in steganography.
Yes. These men were absolutely brilliant. They had nothing better to do but to read, write, and discover things. They didn't have cell phones and TVs and computers. They had the written word. And these men were absolutely brilliant. And women. I mean, every poet probably has some idea of something hidden in their works. There could be other ways of methodologies of hiding, but this particular method of literary steganography was so important to Emerson, who wrote this stuff in his poems. His poems support my research. Edgar Allan Poe's works support my research. And
are there others that, we know of that maybe not poets, but other writers? I know a lot of writers that have been drawn, to these mysteries, and there'll be tiny clues in their works, like Jules Verne, has written, in Journey to the Center of the Earth, and then I guess it was Captain Dardantor or something like that was another book where he referred to Captain Bougarash. And Bougarash is a mountain outside of Rennes-le-Chateau that's supposed to, some people believe that it contains, bodies of great importance and other strange anomalies. But have you come across other writers?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The Journey to the Center of the Earth, supposedly written by Jules Verne, was actually probably inspired by, or maybe even written by, Edgar Allan Poe, who was alive in France after 1849. Baudelaire transcribed his Edgar's works in French, and who would have possessed this man to do all this? But maybe the current author himself. And Edward de Vere is another writer that wrote this way, and maybe coinciding with Francis Bacon as well as a cadre of writers hiding these things as the Pesher code within these writings. These people all knew each other. There was a conspiracy, and I hate to use that word because it's been duly abused, but
Yes.
It is true. If two or more people conspire to do something, it's a conspiracy.
Yes.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist by the definition that is so badly abused in today's time. I am a treasure investigator. I'm not a treasure hunter. I investigate things that are anomalies, and my investigation work comes from a 22-year background in law enforcement. I retired out of law enforcement because it became too stressful for me. and now I work in a nice job here locally where I live, and it's stress free, and I have a lot of friends and supporters for this research, and my background started in law enforcement in the United States Air Force. I worked a bomb dog over in Turkey, and then I was a policeman for a little while, and then a railroad detective for 15 years. So I've applied the learnings and the investigative work and seeing things from the side door or from the back window, and observing patterns. And this is what's caused me in 22 years now in studying the Project Red Knee to learn what I have learned. And now I'm giving it to the people who it belongs to in this country and abroad. And I've listed here 4 friends of mine. I'd like to mention their names. And the first one is Roy Dallas, Court Lindahl, Ann Tittensor over in Scotland, and James Simpson. These are very brilliant people, and they support and work with me with this project, and I'm happy to be of their acquaintance.
Right, and we want to thank again Court Lindahl for making our connection so that you could come on our show tonight. And as you know, Court's a mutual friend of ours, and we have lots of very interesting discussions about his research and how it sort of dovetails with a lot of mine. So we have a lot of fun talking too. But now I know that you're looking to get this information out in the widest way possible. So people can help in a couple of ways, I would think. One, you'd like to do lectures, so you're available for that. You know who I think would be interested in this material are Masonic groups.
The Masonic groups, I get the feeling that I'm not real welcome, because I think they hide the secrets that I am trying to uncover. And I think they covet these secrets, and they probably do not want to be a part of this. I could be wrong.
But they might want to find out what all you know.
Might, and I'm willing to talk to anybody that would really have their heart in this research and want to know. And I'm looking to get some assistance so that I can travel and lecture, not every day, but maybe once every 2 or 3 months or something like that. To select people that are very interested in some things that are more detailed than what I can get on the radio program.
Right. So if there are people out there that represent different groups or organizations that are interested in this material, you can get hold of Ken on Facebook. You can also get hold of me through Inception, and I will pass the messages on if you'd like to hear more. And I would imagine he's going to reveal a little bit more when he has more time. So that's one way that you can do it. Also, I know that funding would help. And do you have a mechanism set up by which people could help out in that way? If they don't have a group that they could invite you to, maybe to help fund some of your research or trips or something like that, do you have something set up where people can donate?
I don't have a mechanism set up. Probably the best way is to contact me privately through email or through Facebook, and then we can communicate after a conversation that I have with you on telephone. And then I can reveal information where we can make the connection.
Right. So if you're looking for Kenneth, it's Kenneth Andrew Bauman, Bauman, on Facebook. And you can send him a message or send him a friend request. And if you have any problem finding him, just contact me. I'm, on Facebook. And also you can contact me through Inception Radio Network. And we'll get all the messages.
René, can I make one quick comment here?
You sure can.
I have a magnum opus prepared. It is a document. I think it's about 133 pages, and I've called it "And the Truth Shall Set You Free." No one to date has viewed this manuscript, and I'm waiting to see if there's anybody that would want to possibly do movie rights or anything like that would be interested in seeing this manuscript. And there's a pre-magnum opus that I've titled A King's Sword, Drawn from the Stone of Embedded Secret Information, which leads into the magnum opus.
Oh, and, wow, that's interesting.
These have been prepared, and I've sat on them for quite some time. And I'm waiting for the right person. I also have an investment proposal created that I can send out to very interested select persons that would be serious about this research, and we can go from there.
Yeah, well, let's talk after the show, or in another time too. I'd be happy to look at your script idea for film, okay. And that's sort of my business is television and film production out here in Los Angeles. So I'll be happy to look at it, and maybe might be able to suggest some people that you might want to get it to, or I might be able to get it to for you. So we'll talk about that off the air. But if anybody wants to help, get hold of me. Get hold of Kenneth Andrew Bauman on Facebook, and also just hit him up on Facebook and let him know that you heard the show and that you're interested in his research. So goodness, we've got just about 2 minutes left. Kenneth, if there's anything you wanted to make sure that we get in here before we wrap up, maybe you might want to give out the website again for your book, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I'm looking for it frantically and can't find it. So if you don't mind giving it out again.
Okay, real quick, Renee, I'll make two comments. One is the website. The website is www.createspace.com/5541639. And concerning intuition is like miracle to me. It's a hit of intuition. It's like a communication. And we can lead into possibly another dimension, or what I call consciousness, an outside consciousness. This project has identified this juicy tidbit that I have manuscript completed, and if anybody's interested in this is the reason that this project has come to me in my mind through this objective study originally of the sword and the coin. It's a beautiful project. It's what people need today, not violence. They need reading, writing, study, investigation, discovery, and enthusiasm. And I'll end with that.
All right. Well, the music is rolling, so that's perfect timing. Kenneth Bauman, thanks so much for joining us this evening, and thank you all for listening. Thank you, MJ, our wonderful producer, and we will see you all right here next week. Thanks so much. Good night.
Goodbye. Thank you to all listeners.